What's up? What's happening? Welcome into Foxborough Rush. George Balekji with my man, Khalin Kapoor. Khalin back in the fold on Rush. It's football season. Training camp's back in. So, we got to bring our guy Khalin back. Was a voice out in Tahoe of a hockey team. So now he's back with us on the Nest and Fold. Khalin, good to see you again, my man. How you been?
George, it's great to see you. I've been good. All I got to say is it's good to be back. It is good to be talking football. It is great that it's football season again. And a lot of stuff going on in Patriots camp. Let's get right to it.
Yeah, day 3 underwent. Guys, let's temper expectations right now, all right, folks? Day 3 was non-competitive anything. And it wasn't because of the heat. It was 90, humid. It was hot here in New England. But it was planned. Day 1, 2, they went a little heavy. They're going to ramp it up tomorrow. So there's not a lot of takeaways, but as was happening at camp, we have more insight into the depth chart, like the top 3 receivers, more insight into the offensive line rotations. We'll hear from player sound later on in the show as well. So we'll get to that. I just want to temper expectations. We know people are thirsting to make takes. We know there are people out there that are thirsting for rage bait. We don't do that here on Foxborough Rush. We supply educated analysis. So just want to say that now. Nothing crazy happened today at training camp, but plenty of player sound to hear from. And some updates around the league, like Christian Wilkins cut by the Raiders. And Mike Vrabel saying, yeah, we'll look into that. That's someone they can afford. That's someone that would add a lot to this defense. We'll get into all that, and we'll get into Mailbag as well. Let's start right there, though. Patriots Training Camp. So, as I say, we're not doing rage bait, but there are the questions to ask. Like Jabrill Polk, Cullen, still not practicing with the team, still on the lower field. Now, he had offseason shoulder surgery, but he isn't on the PUP. He isn't on the NFI, non-football injury or physically unable to perform lists. This is a question mark because as he stays away from practice, that's a guy that's on the roster bubble, a guy everyone knows that his job is on the line. So you would think he would come in prepared, more locked in. Like Javon Baker, better or worse, is getting reps in practice and is around Mike Vrabel, and we see him coaching him up. Jabrill Polk can't even be coached because he can't even be on the field with the rest of his teammates. And this is now day 3 of camp. We'll see where he's at day 4, I suppose, Cullen.
Yeah, this is a weird one, George. This is, he came in and coming off of that injury, and then first it was described as minor muscle tightness, and now it's being described as a minor soft tissue injury. You know how those can be lingering, nagging. Mike Vrabel has actually gone on record back when he was with the Titans about identifying players that deal with soft tissue injuries a lot and how that can be something that maybe sours him on any particular player. Not saying that's what's happening with Jabrill Polk right now. I think this is concerning only for the reason that you mentioned, George, is that he's on the bubble. This is a very competitive wide receiver room because it's a pretty unproven wide receiver room outside of your Stephon Diggs big signing. So that's why this is important. I'm not concerned too much just because it is, week 1, day 3 of training camp. But for a guy like Jabrill Polk, he wants to get on the field. It's just kind of tough to see a guy that you really want to have a step up in year 2 after what was a pretty disappointing year 1. You just feel for the guy. Like, it is tough. And I hope he can get back on the field and he can show. He had a great camp last year. So you hope he can get back on. And that's why it's concerning, just because he is on the bubble right now, George.
Yeah, and this is, as we've seen, it looks like the top 3 receivers as it's shaking out in camp is, in a way, Stephon Diggs, Damari Douglas, Kayshon Boutte, then Kyle Williams, Kendrick Bourne following after that. That depends how much you want to put into the first team reps, where Stephon Diggs is solely with the first team. Everyone else is getting reps with the first and second team. And also, we see the reps are dwelled out throughout the drill. Stephon Diggs goes first in every line. I never give too much to that. Yes, Efton Chisholm was left off that list at the top 5. Yes, same thing with Javon Baker. Mack Hollins, of course, isn't practicing. With Jabrill Polk, this is a guy that was good at Washington, was a solid second-round pick, was seen as a guy with a high floor, low ceiling, and his floor is much lower than I ever thought it could be. If it is soft tissue, if it is something lingering, they are doing the right thing by bringing him along. But this is a guy that couldn't be active on Sundays, couldn't see consistent reps on Sundays. When the ball is thrown his way, couldn't catch it, and that was never anything you questioned during his time with the Huskies at the University of Washington. So I wonder with Jabrill Polk, and that's something to continue to watch. But honestly, if you're a Patriots fan at this point, you want Stephon Diggs, Demario Douglas, you want Kayshon Boutte to continue to do well, and then you want Kyle Williams and Kendrick Bourne to flourish as well. Look, if Jabrill Polk is a miss, the only person that really hurts is Elliott Wolf and somewhat in Drake Maye's development. But that's why you sign a guy like Stephon Diggs, because that's the same type of receiver, shorter slot underneath. Back in the day, Stephon Diggs was down the field. You could line him up everywhere. But now he is not as big, but again, Inside alignment, in the slot, underneath, medium down the field type of receiver, smart against zone. That's what Jalen Polk brings. And if Stephon Diggs replaces him, again, the person that really hurts is Elliott Wolf. So we'll see. We also know Mack Hollins continues to not be practicing, but he opened up camp on the pup along with Austin Hooper and Vidarian Lowe. Carlton Davis did return to practice on day 3 after missing out on day 2, was not with the team at all. Back out there, which is good. And again, it's acclimation period, Colin. This is ramp up period. I want to see pads go on. I want to see guys hit. I want to see some competition because I want to really start evaluate this team. But this is part of training camp. We're thirsty. We want football to begin. And that's where we have to temper expectations of it. It's acclimation period. Pads aren't going on yet. And there are going to be days like today as well, Colin, where the coaching staff strategically, weather aside, said, hey, day 3, keep it light. It was a lot of handoffs. It was basically a walkthrough with a lot of handoffs. That's getting your brains in the right place. That's resting the body and the minds in a way. I'm excited to see what they do on Saturday with a ramp down day to where they'll go maybe full throttle. We'll see on Saturday.
I think one thing that's really interesting, just going back to the wide receivers, is that the first question that was asked to Mike Vrabel today was about Jalen Polk getting on the field and if it's tough for a second-year player. And I want to note something that I found intriguing based on the difference between Vrabel's response about Polk as opposed to his response about Mack Hollins. When he was asked about Mack Hollins, Mike Vrabel said he's working extremely hard, he's staying engaged, and he really left nothing beyond a shadow of a doubt that Hollins was doing the right things at practice, even though he wasn't on the field. With Jalen Polk, it was a little bit of a different tenor to the answer. He was like, players know what they have to do. You want to get him back in and ramped up when he gets back on the field if he stays engaged. It wasn't as 100% he's staying engaged, he's doing the right things, like Vrabel said about Mack Hollins, which I find interesting about Jalen Polk. But overall, you're right. We can't, take so much into every single minute thing that happens here in days 1, 2, and 3 of training camp. Wide receivers, though, it definitely needs to be talked about just because of how this offense performed last season. Jalen Polk, 87 yards last year. You don't want that to happen again if he makes the roster. George, I know you're a big Efton Chisholm guy. So we're talking about these wide receivers because there's a good reason to talk about them, but we don't want to make these lofty expectations at this point right now just because it's so early in the process.
It's in a way, like, I think I've just separated myself from Jalen Polk. Like, I in a way, I really think I'm over the guy. He doesn't do anything exceptional. He was a safe
Patriots
pick.
Fans are right there in lockstep with you, George.
Yeah, you get Kyle Williams in this draft, and like watching his college tape, you're like, I see the potential that you could tap into. And also, I know the offensive scheme he's going to be in and who he's going to be coached by. And again, Kyle Williams' overall ability, I think, is better than what Jalen Polk brings. What's funny is Kyle Williams was a 3rd-round pick while Polk was a 2nd. But yeah, that's why, it's not right for me to brush it off because I do need to address that. If that is a miss, though, like, that is a guy you could have had for the next 4 years of cost control, growing with Drake Maye. You give him a 2nd contract. That's a connection you could have had together for 8 years. Like, they better hope Jalen Polk works because Stephon Diggs in next season or the season after will be done. And that's when the Jalen Polk would step up and you'd think he'd be contributing more. Kendrick Bourne could be away off of this team by the end of training camp or by the trade deadline. And again, that's where Jalen Polk will step in. So we'll see. I like to bring up that Vrabel bite. We do have it right here, Colin. So great call to it by you. Let's listen to Patriots head coach Mike Vrabel talking about Jalen Polk not yet practicing with the team.
I mean, there's a lot of ways around being out here at practice. I think that everybody, whether that's a 1st year, 2nd year, 10-year, we think that practice is important, but obviously there's circumstances around being out here and not being out here and how you can stay up with the installation. The beginning part of camp, there is installation. It's a repeat from the spring. So, hopefully any player that's not out here can stay engaged and continue to learn and get the information that they need, and then be ready when they get back. I think that's the important thing, and that's what, is focusing on doing everything that you can to get back as quickly as possible. But also when you do get back, there's not a big drop off of information lost when you get back.
Staying engaged, picking it up, and he's talking broad around players. Same thing when he was asked about Milton Williams day 1. Hey, how do you respond to being a leader? Like, he was glowing, gushing about him. Robert Spillane, his introductory presser, he was gushing about him. Mack Hollins, you bring up how he was praising him. Mack Hollins, Robert Spillane, Milton Williams, all those guys were part of Mike Vrabel's first free agency class that he signed while here in New England. So, those are his types of guys. Yeah, but then when he's talking about Javon Baker, who was drafted by Elliot Wolf, the past regime, wasn't as glowing about him. And that is something, too. I'll say it probably every episode we have, but it all comes back to Mike Vrabel talking about respect the team, I respect you. If you give the team respect, that's what gets you to play. And that's all he's asking for. He's not asking for respect for himself. He's asking respect the team and put in the work. That's where this whole Jalen Polk thing is mysterious. He's been down on the other practice field. At Foxborough, there's the main 2 practice fields at training camp. You'll see the bleachers wherever you see the highlight shot. Then there's another field down the hill, and that's more of their main when they're practicing field as well during the season. But during training camp, if you're on the lower practice field, that means you're rehabbing something. You're getting in shape, conditioning. You can't be even a participant in practice. You have to be down there. And when you're not around 11-on-11s, when you're not around on individual drills, that's what Mike Vrabel's talking about of can you catch up, stay caught up, learn the new system. Jalen Polk's in year 2. But again, when he doesn't point out Polk at all, he says, I hope this happens. I hope that happens. That's where the concern comes from, where Mike Vrabel's saying something without saying his name. And with Jalen Polk, there were the reports this past offseason. Andrew Callahan of the Boston Herald always does a great job. But what he was mentioning as well was what he heard was Jalen Polk wasn't the most coachable player. That's not what you want from your second-round pick. That's not what you want from a guy who doesn't do anything exceptionally well. And that's not what you want from a guy that was on the bubble. Now with Josh McDaniels here, with Thomas Brown, with Todd Downing, legitimate NFL coaches that have a lot of experience, if you're not going to take coaching from Josh McDaniels alone or Mike Vrabel, then I don't know what you're doing. And that's what I wonder with Jalen Polk and all of this, Colin, is that it's a guy that can help the team, but in the end of the day, he's really only hurting himself the most. If he's there, good. He can elevate this playbook somewhat. He can elevate the depth, I think. It doesn't really impact games, but that's someone that this offense can use because they need depth. Again, because who we see the structure of this depth chart right now, I don't know how the depth chart is going to look breaking camp and getting to the trade deadline. And Jalen Polk, if he's doing good, he wouldn't be a trade piece, but a guy like Kendrick Bourne can be a trade piece because that's a proven vet that a team that needs a wide receiver 2-3 can use. And if you trade him, Jalen Polk can take over in that spot. Right now, he's only hurting himself, though. And especially hearing that from Mike Vrabel, it's suspect. From day one, from not being on the PUP, not being on NFI, but on the lower field, that's where I get a little curious of what's keeping him away from the full team.
And that's the distinction that I was alluding to, George. Mike Vrabel's a guy that we've seen in these first 3 days, even going back to his first presser as the coach in New England. He's a no-nonsense guy, right? He's going to say it like he sees it. And I think as a player's coach or a former player that is now a head coach, he's not going to throw one of his guys under the bus, and that's something you got to respect about him. But I think those comments were pretty pointed when he was asked about Jalen Polk. He didn't mention anything by name. He wasn't saying anything that, could lead to more strife or any strife in the locker room. But he was saying, you got to stay engaged. You got to stay focused. And the unfortunate reality about Jalen Polk, all the praise we heaped on this draft pick last season, the unfortunate reality is that he's riding on that draft pick stock right now because there's not much in terms of body of work on the field in the regular season. We've seen nothing in terms of body of work in training camp. And as I said before, a very competitive, a very unproven wide receiver room led by Stephon Diggs, who is the vet. He is the 1A. Outside of that, you're fighting for a spot at this point. Pop Douglas obviously is going to be that second. Kyle Williams, you talked about Kayshon Boutte as well. Outside of those guys, you're really fighting to be on that roster. And you said he's on the bubble. He's on the bubble, and he's really not helping himself inch closer to where he wants to be starting year 2.
And I think what I appreciate about Pop Douglas, like he's always engaged with the team. He's always available for the most part. He understands, okay, Josh McDaniels is calling the offense now. He knows Josh McDaniels' offense is lead to wide receivers getting paid because he's going to be a free agent very soon. And whatever motivates guys, I don't care. That's where it comes in, as long as they show up for their teammates and show up for the team. So obviously Pop wants to play well because he likes it here in New England, probably wants to play well for Mike Vrabel, Drake Maye, all of that. But I think he's also locked in because he understands if I play well for this guy, I either get paid here in Foxborough or I'll get paid out there in free agency because he'll set me up with the stats, the yardage, the opportunities to play well. So we'll see. And then Jalen Polk, I just don't know if he's grasping that. Again, it's reports where he was seen as uncoachable. Like, that's a massive red flag. You can say a lot of things about a guy, but not being the most easily coached, not taking coaching the best, not taking it in very well, that's a massive red flag. Let's pivot a little bit now. We'll go from wide receivers to offensive line. So, again, starting offensive line has consistently been Will Campbell at left tackle, starting offensive line, Cole Strange at left guard, Grant Bradbury at center, Mike Onwenu at right guard, Morgan Moses at right tackle. We've seen him sit out some first-team reps, but that's been a maintenance. He's a vet. He's proven. If he takes all the reps now on July 25th, that doesn't lead to wins when it comes to September 7th, whatever the dates are of the games. You want him taking all the reps then now. So in a way, they're keeping him and having him sit out some reps of, hey, it's maintenance, big fella, old fella. We'll get you there because you want him week 18 playing. So that's what it is now. But hear from Morgan Moses himself. Here was him earlier today talking about the offensive line, talking some future, and him as a mentor as well.
Great question, man. But we're not going to down on the past because it's a new year, man. We got an unbelievable, talented room, and we're growing every day. And we got some guys that played a lot of football in that room, and some guys, the young guys that are willing to learn and eager to learn. I think the change of the culture is the key. Football is the same as every sport. It's one in the trenches. When they count down to 4th and 1 and it's 2-minute drills and things like that, you count on the offensive line and the D line to go out there and eat. And the good thing about it is that we got a great offensive line and we got a great defensive line. So we challenge each other every day, and that's iron sharpen iron. So we look forward to the battle. Obviously it's our job to keep our star quarterback upright, and we're going to do those things. So
the optimism then that people are feeling because of the changes that have been made are well-founded.
Yeah, 100%, man. It starts with the foundation, and it starts with the camaraderie and the brotherhood. So when I first got here, there wasn't a lot of offensive line dinners and things like that, and we hung out a couple of times already. And so that's the key, is just being able to get to know each other outside of the building. And Coach Rabel's done a great job of allowing us to get up in team meetings and share our stories, and that allows us to come back together, because if you can know your brother off the field, you'll definitely love him on the field.
The plan with you rotating with Montre, other guys rotating, what's the plan that the staff has for you this season?
I don't know, man. I just come in and try to put my best foot forward every day. The good thing about where I'm at right now is that I still feel like I can continue to learn. It's a way different offense that I've been in my previous years, and so that's what keeps me going, is just being able to come in and knowing that I can get better every day, and the opportunity is there.
More than that, it might be kind of like load management related. You're trying to save your body for the season.
I don't know what it is, but I don't ask any questions, man. I just do what I'm told, and those guys need reps too, because obviously in the trenches, things happen. I think last year they had a lot of injuries in the offensive line, and so it's good to get everybody those reps and things like that. But we're moving forward, and we're getting what we need. We're correcting the things in the meeting rooms, and everything is going well.
Is there anything as you're working with Will that surprised you about Will himself?
Oh man, he's just eager to learn, man. He's hard on himself, and I tell him sometimes you got to give him grace, and he's like, excuse my language, he's like that, man. I'm like, and it's good to see, man, because obviously we come from two different types of football, not saying that I'm older or anything like that, but just to be able to see that attitude and aggression and get better, man, every day, it makes me want to come in every day and get better. And so when you got somebody like that's pushing you on the opposite end, man, that's when you become bookends.
So I like to say I love offensive linemen that are must listens to their pressers. Garrett Bradbury and Morgan Moses, every time they're talking, great quotes, great insight, spoken like true vets, and you can tell really smart guys. But I love how he points out how tough on himself Will Campbell is, because that leads to people that are absolute nerds in the film room, absolutely addicted to watching the film and getting better that way, where he doesn't want to give himself grace. The whole point of this year, the whole point of this time of year is making mistakes, learning, failing, being challenged. And coaches, again, it goes back to the 4 interception day Drake Maye had back in OTAs, where there was the outcry. He's throwing 4 interceptions. What's wrong? You don't know what the coach is telling the quarterback in that situation. And that's what people have to understand with training camp, that, hey, your first read is gone. You have to throw to your second read no matter what. Or you have to go to your first read, whatever it may be, no matter what the defense does, whatever situation they'll put him in. Or the first read could be there and you have to go to the third. I'm giving out every scenario. I'm always talking reads here. But that's what leads to those 4 interception days where Drake Maye's listening to the coaching and there are lessons there that Josh McDaniels, who has so much experience in football and so much knowledge, wants to force him into. So in the same way where Will Campbell won't give himself grace, But again, he's learning and he's failing. But that's why you have a Morgan Moses in that offensive line room where he goes, look, dude, give yourself break, give yourself some chance. And that's a guy that knows how to treat his body the right way. That's how he's been playing this long. But that's someone that understands also how long a season can be from training camp to week 18, where, okay, Will, you want to kill yourself. That's fine. Save the energy because the legs get heavy. All of that happens. So I like listening to Morgan Moses talk. I'm a really big fan of his signing. Again, this is a year one of Ryan Cowden and Mike Vrabel. Year one of Josh McDaniels back. Year one of Josh McDaniels with Drake Maye. Year one of this coaching staff. Needs to be a lot of patience. And Morgan Moses is like the voice of reason to hear all the time on how to temper expectations.
You know, George, Morgan Moses said the word bookends at the end of that sound you just heard. I think he is a perfect bookend to this offensive line. And I love everything that he said and that he's been saying throughout training camp and after his signing with New England. And I just think it's so crazy. You know, I've seen headlines already 3 days in. Morgan Moses got pulled in training camp. Morgan Moses is already a problem. And I'm like, okay, first of all, you know, he's a veteran in this league. It's a ramp-up period. Second of all, there's no pads on. So how are we even going to evaluate offensive line play at this point? I think the most important thing, it's not the minutia on the field. It's not the fact that maybe he allowed 2 sacks in training camp day 2. The most important thing is that Morgan Moses is a true, respected leader already in this locker room. Something really important I keyed in on. He said when he got there wasn't a lot of off-the-field camaraderie building activities. What did he do? He rectified that immediately, had some team dinners or offensive line dinners, and got the group a lot closer. With a rookie like Will Campbell, that's invaluable at this stage in the game. I think Morgan Moses is really, really great in the role that he's in. And on the field, too, he graded out as a above-average, offensive lineman in his last season in New York. And as a veteran player that is going to be a bookend of this offensive line, all of the right things being said right now. And I think from a leadership perspective, George, this is a really perfect place for him to be.
Yeah, and that's someone, again, that when he was in New York playing through injuries, that offensive line got their stuff together towards the end of the season, which was big. This guy is consistently out there on the field as a pro, and you bring it up. He said, he's like, they didn't really have offensive line dinners last year, or when I got here, we're doing that. It's all about getting to know your brothers. It's that type of leadership that brings it together. And I love that you point out he was above average. Great. So that means he's better than the 16th best right tackle in the NFL.
Yep.
This was the worst offensive line in the NFL. If the Patriots have the 16th, literally average, C minus maybe, the most average offensive line in the NFL, average, 16 on the dot, that is a huge upgrade and win for this team. So above average, and that's kind of the standard. It's kind of sad, Colin. Let's go. The above average, we'll take above average when it comes to
you got to
football
reframe
team.
expectations, right? Like,
it's all perspective.
Average,
it's
above
all
average is not amazing. It is better than 31st in pass blocking. It is better than 32nd in run blocking, right? Like,
bingo.
The Patriots have brought in guys that have graded out via PFF grades as average to above average in both pass blocking and run blocking. I'm talking about Garrett Bradbury. I'm talking about Morgan Moses. I have no doubts that Will Campbell's going to get to an above average in both of those as well, the way that we've seen him. I think you mentioned it, be hard on himself and want to improve. I think we're going to talk about the quote-unquote arm length controversy here at the end of the show. But I think this is really good. And you can't unequivocally say this offensive line is going to be better because, again, there's no pads. We're not sure how, that interior and the guard position is going to end up shaking out. I think we can say it's going to be better than last year just because of the people that have been signed. And again, I'll mention it, the leadership aspect is so important at this stage of the summer here in late July. I think that the offensive line is going to be better at the very least. It has to be. I think it could be a league average to league above average group as we get along in training camp and we iron out who's going to be in those guard positions, right guard and left guard, and then how is Will Campbell acclimating to the NFL out of college.
I like to take a moment, Colin. Everything you said was right. Everything I agree with. Patriots fans, we hope this is the last time we ever say, I hope league average. I hope above average. Trust me, we're with you guys.
Yeah.
We'll take a quick break here on Foxborough Rush. When we're back, we'll talk about a guy well above average when he's on the field. He's out there on free agency. His name's Christian Wilkins. Got cut by the Raiders. Is he fit for the Pats? And does he make sense in New England? Take a quick break on Rush. When we're back, we'll get into that.
Christian Wilkins just got released. Sources say Wilkins, after 1 year of his 4-year, $110 million contract, blockbuster contract, one of the biggest in free agency last year, has been informed of his release. He has made $40+ million fully guaranteed anyway. The team is attempting to void some of the remaining guarantees. We'll see what happens with that, if there's a grievance, how it proceeds here. But here's what we know. Christian Wilkins has for sure played his last down with the Las Vegas Raiders. It has been an ongoing saga. The team wanted him to have foot surgery to repair that foot after the first surgery did not take. He refused, did not want to have the surgery. That essentially for the team was not a way forward. Without the surgery, hard to imagine he would have played this year. The team has already paid him $40+ million. They decided just to move on. The new regime, it is just not worth it. So they officially move on from Christian Wilkins, who now becomes a free agent.
That right there from Ian Rappaport, Christian Wilkins. Shocking news when I saw this because I know how good he is, how talented he is, how much he got paid by the Las Vegas Raiders. But Ian Rappaport mapping it out right there. Shout out to our producer, Brendan, for grabbing that video. I think that's a perfect thing to bump in with because we need as much perspective around the Christian Wilkins situation before you go pay the guy, go get him. Why he got cut. And this happens after there was a few days ago, a video of him dancing in the Vegas facilities, no boot on his foot. He suffered a Jones fracture injury week 5 last year. With the surgery, that could keep you up at maximum out 8 weeks. But he was still in a walking boot. And as Ian Rappaport details too, that there was a butting of heads between Wilkins and the Raiders. And Colin, the biggest thing in all of this for me, there might not be a more player-friendly head coach than Pete Carroll. And Pete Carroll said, cut him. They have to eat some money, but because of what he did, shout out to the Raiders. I mean, they found it within the contract. They're able to void $35 million in guaranteed money to get rid of him. They made it work. This was something that shocked me. This is something that interests me because the Patriots should go after him. But this is something that also has me curious because, okay, why did he get cut? Because, Mike Vrabel, we, again, respect the team. I respect you. He wasn't respecting the Raiders and their plan for him to be available for that team. We'll see what Mike Vrabel finds out when he kicks the tires on him.
Yeah, George, this was really shocking for a few reasons. The fact that the contract was as big as it was, the splash last offseason was as big as it was, but this felt less like a cutting ties and more like a public firing, a public you're done. I mean, the wording of the statement that the Raiders put out, I'm going to read it off just so I get it verbatim. There is no clear path or plan for future to play. That's what they thought. They might have had their reasons to do so. I'm not entirely sure how above board this one was. Wilkins immediately using the NFLPA to file a grievance. My personal opinion, I don't think they're going to be able to hold out that $35+ million that he had guaranteed if they're able to. In my mind, what is the point of the NFLPA if not to protect the players? But overall, the key thing
they like going to Magic City and Tootsie's, to be fair. They like going to strip clubs, apparently.
Well, you know what? I think that the key thing here, not to completely jump past that, George, but I'll jump past it. The key thing here is that, is he healthy? And can he pass a physical? Is he going to be able to get on the field at some point this season? If the grievance ends up working out in favor of Christian Wilkins, the money is going to be about $8 million this season and over $25 million next season. If the Patriots want to offer him a pretty short deal and have that money be the main driver of the income and add on a little bit on top, that's pretty low risk and pretty high reward. And George, we can break down what this defensive line is going to look like if Christian Wilkins joins. It would be fearsome and then some. Yep. And I think that's why we're both in lockstep here of why Christian Wilkins would be a good fit for this team, especially with the Mike Vrabel connection we'll talk about here in a second. So this is really shocking. It is very Raiders coded. I mean, you think about the Raiders and their blunders in terms of huge signings. This is just another in a long list of those. So I think that if the physical checks out and the money checks out, this is going to be a really great fit for the Patriots.
Yeah, I mean the Raiders when they signed J.C. Jackson, that didn't work out. When they went inside now
Yep.
Christian Wilkins, $78 million guaranteed, and to me it was worth it. You pair him up with the Max Crosby, he was phenomenal with the Miami
Yeah.
Dolphins. He was always available. He was always there, blowing up the interior of the pocket. Proven pro player, and that's right. With the Raiders, like the most ice cold statement ever. I have it up too. This franchise has a commitment to excellence on and off the field, with no clear path or
just
plan for
crazy.
future
That's
return.
crazy.
To play from Christian, with no clear path or plan for future return to play from Christian. They name him, and they basically say,
wild.
we've laid out everything. We have the trainers. We have the team doctors. And as Ian Rappaport was saying, there was not an agreement on his surgery. And this is a common injury. It's kind of difficult when you're that big to come back from, but is with no clear path or plan for future return to play from Christian, this transaction is necessary. That says a lot.
I think that
if his foot's healthy, who's the person you get?
I think if the grievance doesn't work out, it sets a pretty dangerous precedent when it comes to coming back from injuries, when it comes to players knowing what it takes for them to get back on the field as opposed to teams. I think also about the Jack Eichel situation in Buffalo, obviously kind of flip-flop because Eichel wanted the surgery and the team didn't let him. And you think about Jack Eichel, he ended up choosing himself, going to Vegas and winning a cup. So, hey, if that is the blueprint here, maybe going to the Patriots is going to be a good thing. But I just think it always comes down to this, the player, their knowledge of their own body and what is best for them and what the team wants them to do. And in this case, it seems to me the team didn't want Wilkins to do this, and they went and they found this kind of loophole to get the guaranteed money off the books. And they put out this statement that felt very, I mean, it was obviously targeted, but it felt very targeted. It felt very, we are done with you, and we want everyone to know exactly why. You said they named him in the statement. You don't see statements like this out of NFL teams very often.
Yeah, and it's also something that, and I did joke about it, but like Lloyd Howell Jr. got himself fired because he was expensing strip club trips on the company dime insane. JC Treader resigned and he tried to say, blah, 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 fall in the sword. No, dude, like you did an awful job and he was probably doing backdoor deals, allegedly, maybe. But there is a void now in leadership with the NFLPA. And that's when this stuff matters. And I don't want to get into like nerdy NFLPA talk, but it's also where, again, Christian Wilkins suffered this injury in week 5. We've seen recoveries from this injury in 4 to 6 months, as quick as 8 weeks. Now, he's a big dude. And when you're pressing off that foot, taking on an even larger dude, because that's what he does interior defensive line, there's a lot of wear and tear on that foot. But if there's a disagreement between rehab and surgery, and if he's not following up on the proper treatment, you could do stuff on your own outside the building. Stephon Diggs, the fact that he's a full participant coming off a torn ACL he suffered just over 270 days ago, he was following the plan. So that's where, if the Raiders have it, and I don't think they would do this, cut him, let him go if they didn't have the receipts. And again, like on their side, they have the lawyers that they know what they're doing, that they are ready to probably go to battle. And again, with Pete Carroll, very player-friendly head coach, one of the best when it comes to that. And he's willing to let Christian Wilkins be cut and released. And the Raiders are confident that they will not have to give him that $35 million. Then this will be interesting. So let's now pivot to, what do you think it would cost the Patriots? Are you concerned about the foot? And what do we see the fit? This cost is what's interesting, Colin, because, all right, the guy was due $35 million guaranteed. He missed out on that. He's still 28 in his prime. He's not even 30 yet. If he can get paid again, I mean, he can cash in with a, let's say, $60 million guaranteed contract. This is where all of these general managers, owners, head coaches, they talk with one another. For the most part, they have good relationships. Team doctors, same thing too. If you just think of general manager, head coach, and like a head team physician, right? All of those guys are one of 32. They're one of the 32 NFL teams that have that role. They all talk, and they're all going to be inquiring about Christian Wilkins. And you would bet the Raiders now, the Patriots, let's put them in this perspective. They'll be doing their homework, getting different perspectives. Mike Vrabel commented on it. If they don't like what they hear, then that would drive down his market. And this is a guy that might be hoping to get, I don't know, a deal that can give him up to $20 million this season. That's what makes this interesting. Money-wise, for a lot of teams, it could make sense. Do you want to sign up for someone, though, that isn't fully bought in to be available for your team?
And the Patriots have the money to play with, so they are at an advantage on that end, George. I think the interesting thing here is that you mentioned it, that these coaches talk to one another. Pete Carroll's a pretty player-friendly coach. I saw a report earlier today about this news. Diana Rossini said that one head coach is concerned about the foot because the Raiders were that concerned about the foot. Have to imagine that's because of communication between Pete Carroll and other teams that are inquiring about his status. In terms of money, if you're the Patriots that have invested so many millions of dollars into this rebuilt defense at this point, you talk about Harold Landry, Robert Spillane, that these players are coming in that have a lot of veteran presence, Carlton Davis as well. I think it's worth at the very least seeing where Wilkins is at and what kind of contract he wants. But to me, it all hinges. You got to have a physical. You got to see exactly what the timeline is. If the timeline is, I'm ready for week 1 and, you're not showing ill effects, or if the timeline is, you got to get this surgery right now, maybe Wilkins won't even want to join a team that says that, and it's an 8-week timetable from right now, you're still in a pretty good spot. So I think that there is absolutely no harm in seeing what the cost is right now, but you got to do your due diligence. You got to do your homework on where he's at with his injury status. And again, I'll say it, you toss in Christian Wilkins in this defense, you're able to kind of rotate guys around in, Mike Vrabel's base 3-4 that he said he's going to do about 20% of the time. And then they're going to start to modify that. You get Wilkins on the interior, that is going to be an absolutely formidable front on defense. You and Travis, George, talked about how good the defense has looked in these padless drills against the O-line. How good is this defense going to look with one of the best interior tackles in the game? Look at his breakout season in Miami, tallied 9 sacks. If that Christian Wilkins is on the table for this season, oh boy, that's going to be huge for this Patriots team. But it all starts with doing your due diligence first and seeing if that actually is a plausible scenario for this year.
Here's Mike Vrabel. He was asked and did comment about the Patriots' interest in Christian Wilkins. Listen to it right here.
Well, I think we'll have a conversation. Again, this is pretty new, so I don't have all the information on what where Christian is. I've known Christian. I've recruited him when he was up here in the area in Connecticut and going to high school. So, I'm sure we'll have a conversation about it.
So that's Mike Vrabel going, look, and he, recruited the guy. Obviously goes back to Mike Vrabel's ties with the college game. And he's talking about, there's also history. Terrell Williams did coach Christian Wilkins at one point in Miami as well. They're going to have their insights. Now, I wonder with the Raiders, it's twofold on this happening. There's the disagreements with the rehab, with the surgery. Then there's also the understanding of what that injury could be and if he's available at all. And if they did not think he's going to be able to play this year, that might lead to, again, with all of it too, I just think if a guy is ignoring rehab, if a guy is ignoring treatment, and if a guy is pushing off surgery and not doing what's best for him, that's a reflection on him and the people that advise him around him, like a reflection on a circle. The Patriots will find this out. What I do love hearing, though, Colin, and this is where Mike Vrabel, a guy that is an alpha in every room, but wants to be the leader when it comes to personnel decisions, this is when it pays off. Because we just heard, basically, from the New England Patriots general manager right there, Mike Vrabel, saying, yes, we're going to look into a guy that if he's playing and healthy and locked in is one of the best at his position. Yeah, we're going to inquire on that. We're going to look into that. So just brushing it off of, well, we're not going to talk about any of the players that are not here. I'm just worried about training camp with the Patriots. This is what's important for Mike Vrabel is that he's like, yeah, I'll look into it. That guy hit the open market. Let's find out what we can get. And to your point, he would be a rotational piece, same exact role and usage as Milton Williams and Christian Barmore. You put him next to a Joshua Farmer as a second line defensive line. At one point, all three of those guys would be paired up, Williams, Barmore, and Christian Wilkins. You would have the best interior defensive line in the NFL. It's a matter of Christian Wilkins' foot and how locked in he is in the football, though. That's where it all comes back to. Who are you getting when it comes to the guy between the ears, not just the guy on the field?
And I love what we heard from Mike Vrabel, too, just attacking it as the player-first coach that he is, attacking it the fact that he knows Christian Wilkins as a human being and he recruited him and his coaching staff knows him. I think that's really great for just the overall culture of this team. I really love the Mike Vrabel sound bites just because I said it earlier, he's a no-nonsense guy. He'll cut right to the point. He's not going to be wishy-washy about it. He's not going to say we're on to Cincinnati about it, right? This is a guy that is going to say what he thinks when he thinks it. And in this specific case, I think this is a pretty good fit. Again, if Christian Wilkins can get on the field. And to your point, if he can kind of be right in with the system and lock in with the system too. So it's a really interesting thing just because of the circumstances surrounding this, with the grievance that's new news here today, with the statement that was released as well. There's a lot swirling around this whole issue. But if you cut through that and focus on the football, if Wilkins can get on the field, if they can agree on a number, you said it, this is going to be one of the best D-lines in the entire NFL.
Yeah. All right, we'll take another break here on Foxborough Rush. When we're back, we will hear from guys that are on the team that spoke at training camp. That's coming up on Foxborough Rush. What's up? Welcome back into Foxborough Rush. All right, let's get into some player sound. Here's Jabrill Peppers speaking at training camp. Always love hearing from him. But this is also a Vrabel guy through and through, like the type of player Mike Vrabel loves. So I'm excited to see the pairing between the two of them. Here's Jabrill Peppers, Patriots safety, talking about his experience with Mike Vrabel and with the defense so far. Check it out right here.
What's the feeling amongst the group as you undertake this under Mike Vrabel? What's it been like for you guys?
We just buying in, getting to know each other, getting to see how he want us to play, and then, practicing to that. Everyone's hungry, but right now it's still too early. We're in shorts and helmets right now, so, but it's just the little things coming together, learning the system, building that conditioning, things like that.
How important is it for a guy like you, a veteran leader, to establish what he wants all the way through from Jabrill Williams all the way down to you guys?
Well, I think that's on the veterans to do that, be that bridge from the coaches, to the younger players. We've been around, seen a lot of football, been in a lot of systems, know how things work, know what works and what doesn't work, and know how to stick around. So, I pride myself on being that guy, to help the younger guys, see things how they want them to see it, things like that. But the young guys do a good job of buying in. It's pretty easy with this group.
What's it like having Jabrill Williams back?
Oh, it's tremendous. He was checking in on us, via FaceTime or Zoom. But it's just glad to have his presence, his intensity, cracking jokes, making the meeting room a little lively, because you need that in camp.
Jabrill, yesterday, Drake Maye told us that the guys who have been around here for a few years are tired of losing. Do you see that as a mentality?
Well, no one likes to lose. We're not trying to, dwell on what happened in the years prior. We're here right now with a wonderful opportunity in front of us. We got a lot of guys that see the game, the same way. You just got to buy into that. Put the work in, and what you put in, you'll get out.
Bro, the guys have talked a little bit about how the scheme changed a little bit this offseason, a little bit more disruptive, a little bit more aggressive up front. How much, if at all, does that change for you guys on the back end?
I mean, we're going to do what we got to do, the way we have to do it. I'm not going to sit here and talk, about a scheme or whatever, but we got a lot of guys that have a lot of ability to play a bunch of different places and make plays on the ball and in the run game. So we're going to play our guys to our strengths, play together, communicate, and, good things should happen for us.
Well, this seemed like a pretty blitz-heavy practice. It seemed like Drake gave you guys a lot of chances to get home, but how do you feel first impression?
It's still the early stages of camp. We still have a bunch of installs to go, but it's good to get some pressure back there. It's good to run around. Put the helmet back on, things like that. But once the pads come on, that'll be the real telltale. Yeah, I keep telling him take that 5 off. He's not tough enough, but he told me to go check in on the Patriots Hall of Fame. So it's nothing I can say to come back from that. Absolutely. Just the questions he asks, make sure guys are taking notes. They might ask you a question from something from OTAs that, we're professionals, so you're entitled to remember that. Just things like that. Being hard on you, coaching you hard, keeping the standard, not too many pats on the back, just, how you can get better at doing things. Yeah, just passing. Anytime you see Braves, we ready to answer a question. That's my mindset. Nah, he ain't got me yet.
And you're happy to kind of see it through.
Sure.
How important is it for you to get a good start this summer, these practices, preseason, so you can get into the regular season?
Absolutely. It's always important to get a good start, regardless. But especially going into a new system, new coaches, gelling together, getting on the same page is always good to get the ball rolling early.
Jabrill Peppers, always a great soundbite. I love that when he was asked and answered out, Mike Vrabel always quiz you on stuff, making sure you know everything. Taylor Lewan said that about his experience with Mike Vrabel in Tennessee. He's like, you don't just know the offense or the deep. You're knowing what the keys are for the defense, what the keys are for the special team. Everyone gets locked in, everyone knows, and that's what leads to one possession wins. But I loved him saying, like, we're professionals. We need to know this stuff. There we go. And that's with all of this, Colin. Like, this is a professional, I keep saying serious. This is also a professional football operation once again. It's been a while. We haven't seen it since 2021, but that's what Mike Vrabel brings. It's a professional football operation.
Yeah, it's the buy-in from day one that we're seeing. And I think you look at the voices that carry weight on this team, right? We just heard from Peppers. We've heard from Morgan Moses. Drake Maye is one of those guys too. They are all completely 100% bought into this system. They're bought into Mike Vrabel because there's just so much mutual respect with Mike Vrabel. We heard Morgan Moses talk about it. Vrabel's a guy that's put on the pads. He's done it himself in practice. He's helping. He's carrying a pad. I know Casey Hudson mentioned this earlier on one of the shows that there's a comp here to Dan Campbell. I think that was a really great point. Dan Campbell gets the best out of his guys because the guys respect what he has done on the field and what he does as a coach in practice. I think Mike Vrabel is a similar type archetype as a coach, and it's really, really great to see. And I'll say one more thing. I don't want to bring up, Red Sox trauma of years past, but I'll quote Alex Cora and say, if they give trophies for vibes, I think this Patriots team is up there. I mean, George, you can correct me if I'm wrong. You were there on site a few days ago, but everything I'm seeing from the players in media, from the clips of training camp on social media, things look like they are going really great here in week one. And I think the key thing is, I'll say it one more time, the players are bought in to this system and to this new professional organization, the new way of running things. And I think it's only going to grow as you get past ramp-up periods, you get the pads on, things are going to get even better. I'm really, really liking what I'm seeing from the first week of training camp.
Yeah, I mean, I would say you know what the vibes are? It's all about football. I think like that's what matters. The most important thing is football. It's not the head coach trying to sound like the coolest guy. It's not them talking about non-football things, not quotes on the walls. It's about football. And like we can get into all the vibes and everything. To me, that's what's important. And it's these guys, enjoying being out there and training camp. You see it on your screen, Will Campbell going through signing a bunch of autographs. I mean, that's what's cool. It was Drake Maye day one. It was guys like Robert Spillane running onto the practice field and just screaming football to the crowd and them getting amped up. Stephon Diggs bringing energy. Everything about them. If you ask anyone around the Patriots, what's the most important thing? I think their answer is football. And that's not what it was last year. That's not what it was in 2023 or 2022 because Bill Belichick, the way he built that offensive coaching staff, wasn't the best thing for the team or for football. So finally, for the first time in about 4 years, the most important thing for them is football and the Patriots putting out the best product possible on the field. So that's where the vibes are. I wouldn't say they're high. I wouldn't say it's fun, but you're right. Like the vibes are back to being a professional, serious football operation, and it's been a long time since that, and that's what's important. We'll take another break here on Foxborough Rush. When we're back, we'll get to your guys' mailbags. Be right back after this. What's up? Welcome back to Foxborough Rush. Let's get to the mailbag. Colin, first one I'm doing with you. I'm excited for this one. So Off-White 929. Do you think that Jack Conley could start at left guard for the Patriots? Please let me know. Thank you. I'm wondering about it. Please answer my question. You said please twice, so we'll answer it. I don't think he could start at left guard, but I think he could develop down the line as a contributing interior offensive lineman. When you have a guy taken where he was in the draft that late, there's like the draft told you in the NFL, 32 teams told you what they saw of him. Like the Patriots are allowing to pass on him round after round because they knew they'd get him. Good piece. Big, can pan out as a center or a guard. He adds depth, which, again, this offensive line needs.
Yeah, George, I see this one as a long shot, too. I think the size is the big thing that, maybe down the line, we've seen a ton of O-line injuries for this Patriots team over the past few years. But right now, depth piece, long shot, I don't really see him being a starter this year, if not for injury down the line.
From YouTube Connolly family on Stephon Diggs. Absolutely yes, because everyone was saying he wouldn't even be out there till about week 4. That was on exceeding expectations at training camp. Absolutely yes, because everyone was saying, yeah, I mean, he definitely exceeded expectations. But when we talk expectations for Stephon Diggs, it's stats. It's football. It's real football. It's not timeline. Because, again, I asked him, like, you could be out there. You could be a full participant. But how close are you to being Stephon Diggs? He had a good answer in a deflecting way. He filibustered. He's a pro. He's a vet. He knows how to filibuster. But the expectations are all about the stats, Colin.
And I think Diggs himself is a guy that really likes to have his stats be as high as possible. He loves getting his targets. You know, if our barometer is getting on the field before week 4, absolutely, this has exceeded expectations. This guy's a vet. He's a leader in the wide receiver room. I want to see more and more as we progress through camp and into week 1.
High standards. We always have them. Even when we're like, hey, we're excited for an average offensive line. We still have high standards. From Michael Garofalo on Will Campbell's arm length. Oh my God, his arms really are short. He'll be moved to guard within 2 years. Yeah, he will. And that's fine if he is, because he'll be an all-pro guard, because he's not a long-term left tackle. But if he can play it this year, that's a win. And if he gets moved inside, after a year, if he starts the whole season at left tackle, he was a home run hit to help buy time. Once he's moved into left guard, yes, it'll be because of his arm length, but also be because they got a good left tackle, which is what you want.
Yeah, real quick, I don't see the arm length as a complete 100% disqualifier, but, you know, he's in the really bottom percentile in arm length, like 7%. So, yeah, probably will get shifted over. He's a good player. He's really athletic. I think he'll be just fine in the NFL.
So I wasn't making that face at you, Colin. The last one, some guy, Zachary Juber on Kyle Williams. Looks like a child. My expectations aren't high this time around. Yeah, dude, he was just in college. Like, I don't know, Zach, how old are you? Are you in college? Are you in high school? I'm 31. Now everyone I see coming out, I'm like, damn, that's a kid. Cullen is not a kid. He's fresh out of college.
Yeah, this guy's a fellow 2002 kid. You know, Kyle Williams and I, 2002. God. I love it.
You're both
like,
children.
Let's go. He's in the NFL. I'm not, so, you know, it's okay. But, yeah, he looks like a kid. He's young.
I'm 31. I'm an effing child. Like, you're not an adult until you're like 55, I'm convinced. He's Khalin Kapoor. Cullen, good having you back on the show, my man. Always good seeing you. Keep holding it down, Seal. Till next time on Foxborough Rush. Brand new episode, you know it. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 1 to 2 p.m. right here on Nesson Nation.